following is the views of Max and JC. They're not experts in any way, but if you don't like their podcast, you don't like their views, don't listen.
Inside.
Load 7.0.
All right.
Oh, my microphone's coming off the desk.
Fix
Here
it.
we go. When a stranger asks you,
Dude, is this another
For a
thing you
bench
look
press
up on the
spot.
phone?
most of the time he's waiting for you to upright row for him. Let him struggle. It's a teaching moment.
I'm going to mute you while you do with this fixing. I'm muting you, so don't talk until you're done fixing it.
Welcome.
All
so,
right.
we're going to interview a little brother here.
You already interviewed me once already about my whole careers and everything else, so I don't know what else you're going to have.
Why are you getting all upset? You're already getting upset. Why are you getting?
Because
you're
I
getting a bully.
have anxiety.
You're becoming a bully, and you want to go into your quiet room?
Yes.
Take a nap.
Yep.
Here we go. So, one thing about JC that a lot of you don't know is he's a coach.
Yeah.
He's been coaching for how many years?
15.
I can't hear you.
I can hear me.
15 years you've been a
15
coach.
years.
You've been coaching what? Baseball?
Football, baseball,
Football. What
soccer,
else?
basketball.
Soccer.
I coach tennis. Dude, are you just going to break this shit?
Stop distracting.
No, I'm just waiting for you to fix this. I'm going to mute it while you do fix this. Well, we play this in the Butthole Surfers. No, we ready? I mean, you're not done yet.
For 15 years.
15 years.
And what have you learned? What have you learned about coaching? Wait, let's tell everybody what you've been coaching. You've been coaching what? Not the type of sport. What age group?
I coached all age groups.
Pee-wee?
Yeah, I coached little kids.
Okay. Pee-wee? The little juniors? High school?
I
right?
coached all ages.
All ages.
Up to high school.
And what's the one thing that you love about coaching? Why'd you do it?
Why did I coach?
So when people answer,
Because I like to watch. I like to watch. I don't know what
That's
you.
a
Why'd
stall
you do
type.
what? Why did you say? Why did you do it?
Yeah,
why did
why'd
I
you coach? Why
I
didn't
don't
you just put
understand
your
why
kids
you
in
said why
sports?
you do it.
Yeah.
Well, originally I started coaching before I even had kids because I liked the sport of football, and I wanted to learn how to coach. And then when I had kids, believe it or not, the first one didn't even play football, so I still coached. But I also coached the baseball team, and I coached his basketball team. And then I enjoy coaching the sport I played because I enjoy watching people learn. Just like any other teacher, you teach a sport and you like to watch them be successful.
Yeah. How come I can't hear you?
Because I deleted my headphones because I
there
don't
we
want to hear
go.
myself.
All right.
So I coach something just like you like fitness. I coach and give my advice, but I also make sure that I learn from my mistakes of coaching, and I go back and I research because things change from the 1980s to now, and there's different ways and different approaches as well as rules.
Do you mean the rules have changed in the sport? Or
There are certain rules that have
changed?
changed in the sports. There's certain techniques that have changed to teach. Like when I played, just like you were talking about the weight room, when I talk about football coaching tactics, when I was coached, I was coached like get out there, fuckface, and get
You
hit.
wore a leather
and pretty close. I had a helmet with no air in it because they couldn't find a helmet that fit my head. And so I just had a plastic with a rubber bladder in it that I just go out there, and I probably got concussions every goddamn game. And so, but back then concussions were based on is he looking at you or is he unconscious? He's not unconscious, and he doesn't have a concussion. He got his bell rung, and they send you back in.
What year is it?
Yeah, a good one. Correct. Get in there. So, and then they always ask you, do you know what you're doing right now? Well, I'm wearing football shit, so I'm playing football. That's right. Get it back in there. So
Wait. Here's what they ask you. Hey, what year is it? And you're like, dogs? Exactly. It's Chinese New Year.
Yeah.
Go out and play.
How many fingers do I have? 1. Close enough.
He's
Get back
special.
in there. So, yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that I learned that I was taught that were probably not the best that I learned from other coaches. But again, back in the day, I mean, people died, kids died because coaches wouldn't give you water as punishment. And people died from head injuries and because no one would pay attention to the signs. And things have changed. Even in the pros, they've changed. So, I mean, look at the professionals that talk about it. These fuckers used to be able to smash each other in the face with their forearms and poke each other in the eyes. And there was, in the old days, you were only down when you were done moving on the ground when they tackled you. You could get tackled, still get up and squirm and get up. And now they're like, that's where the theory came from. They seen the piles of people. That was the old days where they said a runner was down when he was down. So he was like dead.
Well,
Couldn't move.
That was the days when they didn't have pads. That's when they had those
No,
little
they had
rubbers.
rubber
They had those-
helmets and little shoulder pads, but it was just like football's changed. So what I've coached, same with baseball. I learned how to teach a different way. So
But American football's changed, but the English version of football still looks the same. They still run
soccer,
around with-
you mean soccer?
No, what is that? Rugby? Where they run around?
Well,
the
that's
helmets?
fucking rugby, man.
They'll
Rugby,
beat the shit out of each
and
other.
the funniest thing is they'll say there's less concussions in rugby than there is in football, and the truth is behind that is, you want to know why? Because people don't strap something to their head and use it as a weapon. They run around with nothing on their face, and that's why football in the older days they didn't have a lot of concussions because people didn't use their head to beat the shit out of each other.
I would.
Then they put plastic on their head, and they're like, "Well, I'm gonna ram you with it." Then they get neck injuries.
I always like watching those guys fight and they punch each other with their helmets on.
Yeah, and the thing is, if you wear a mask, everybody thinks, well, it's going to protect my face. That's why people use their head. I think if you took off a mask, people wouldn't hit you so much with their head.
Exactly. So you're making people overly.
Well, they're trying to protect themselves, and in turn, they're hurting themselves worse because people put their head down to avoid getting hurt, which not thinking that when your head is completely straight, it's not really at its strongest point, and it's going to get jammed back into your shoulders, which is going to hurt.
So what you're saying is by giving you more equipment to protect yourself from injury, you're making the person overly confident and less cautious, and they're going to create more injury.
Right, because think about people who do stupid stunts. They
Yeah.
put on more equipment, and they're like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'll run into a brick wall and slam into a car because they know the chances of injury are less if you said, just get out there and get hit by a car. No. But if you put me in a bunch of padded bubble wrap, I'll get hit by a car.
True.
So that's what happened with the sport. And again, I think the sport needs protection because they're learning from these old guys who fucking have way too many injuries. But I think the problem with the reason why there's such a rise in concussions is because everybody uses their helmet on their head instead of as protection. They use it as a weapon.
But don't you think it has to do with the fact that people are 3 times bigger than they were 50
Well,
years
that's
ago?
half of it, too. When a dude, back in the day, 230 pounds was a big dude. Now 230 pounds is a running back or a receiver in the NFL, and they are fast and they're big. So there's one thing that's missing is the athletic abilities increased, but then the amount of equipment that people wear. I think there's more equipment on a person's body, especially in baseball. Baseball, they wear elbow protectors and shin protectors. You know what? Just don't hit the ball funky, and you won't have to worry about it. But they're like, well, you're throwing a pitch at 100 miles an hour. Yeah, it hurts. But you chose the profession, you know?
Yeah, but they probably didn't throw 100-mile-an-hour fast.
People threw 100 miles an hour back in the 80s. There wasn't a whole lot of them, just like there wasn't a whole lot of big people like there is playing football. So
what you're saying is,
So what I coach is I learn a lot. And the thing is that it's always constantly, just like anything else that you have interest in, there's always something that's new that is interesting to listen to because research proves it, or somehow they did a study, and then you get to go back and act like the guru when you teach to your athletes, this is what's new, or this is a technique that I've saw. You know, no one's an expert, and obviously there's something to be learned. You learn something every time you take up coaching or teaching, so you're going to find something new every time.
Yeah, but how much of it do you, as a coach, do you think it's really fair for the coach to get so much attention for the win?
What?
Yeah. Like, you know, when they went. I mean,
Like as what? As far as them, like as far as them saying you did a great job and you. Well, again, it's like a chess match. You have to put these people in positions to succeed. You can't put people in positions to succeed. They can't do it on their own. They have to be, you know, most of these young players have to be taught how to work together and also how to function and succeed together, because everybody wants the highlight. Everybody wants to take on the glory. But the problem is not everybody understands that it's a team effort in anything you do. So you have to be willing not only to accept it as a team, which is what the coaches should be accepting it as. Most coaches don't take full responsibility for the win or take full responsibility for the season. They take responsibility for putting people in places to succeed. That's what they take responsibility for. So they notice something in that person and they put them in a position to help the team, or if it's an individual effort, they notice something in that person they're going to be successful at, and they put them in that position. That's the job as a coach.
So here we go. I just looked this up real quick. Hall of Famer Wilbur Pete Henry, also known as Fats, was one of the largest NFL players and dominant linemen in 1920. He was 5'11" and weighed 245 pounds.
1920s?
Mm-hmm.
5'11", 245 pounds now is probably like a fullback in junior high school level.
Yep. Now the 330-pound Oakland guard, let's see, you know who he is. Kelechi Osmel.
There's a lot of guys way over 300 pounds.
6'5", he's 330-pound guard.
Right now?
For the Raiders. I don't know, whatever. So, back to that. When I only coached for 2 years, and that was soccer. And all I did was the conditioning. I didn't do the actual, like, strategy or the plays. I just did the conditioning for the kids. But what I didn't like when I coached, which I've heard you mention plenty of times, was the parents coming out and pretty much taken away from the game with their attitude, their stupidity, their screaming, expecting these young kids who are out just to learn and have a good time, and they were acting like it was blood.
I don't think
out for blood.
I don't think parents are their stupidity. The problem is every parent, when you have a kid who plays, every parent has the impression that their child's the best. And every parent wants their kid to be the best. Because to the parent, it's not about the child, and this is my opinion, not about the child succeeding. It's about them succeeding through the child. And they say, hey, well, guess what? If my kid's not the best, that means I suck too at sports. So I got to fucking make sure that my gene pool pushes into this kid because he's got to represent, man. Get out there and fucking represent. Which is sad because some kids take the wrong sport. They take up the wrong sport. They don't know what sport that really works for them. And this is what happens. This day and age, everybody focuses on one sport. Mom was a track star. We're going to do track. Dad was the best baseball player in high school. You're going to be a good baseball player because you have to be because you're my kid. Not knowing that some of these kids might be really good football players or basketball players or hockey players, or they may not be athletic at all. Exactly. And that's just the part that parents don't understand. So when they're young, they take on the approach, but they're just going to have to find themselves and be that person. And so when they push them into youth sports, they push them into a direction of at some time the light bulb's going to click and you're going to be awesome. And if that was the case, and let's put me in an example, coming from a family that I don't think anybody hardly played sports, then why was I able to play football? So because I practiced at it and I played it. I wasn't the best at it. I don't think I was an outstanding athlete, but I was able to play. And so I think a lot of that has to do with just the kid themselves. And there was no pressure. In fact, if anything, my mom discouraged me from doing anything outside of 4-H. Yeah. So it was more of me just want to play. I sucked at baseball, but I played. And it just was something that I wanted to do because I felt like I had to because I was in a group of people that I hung out with that did those things. And so, but I look at it from coaching standpoint, most people, and myself included, think that your kids should be awesome athletes. I think your athletic gene will pass on for sure, but knowing what sport they're going to take up is not really your decision. It's their decision. Because, again, when you played, which is what I tell most parents, when you played, there wasn't 250-pound linemen all across the board. There wasn't a big 200-pound running back. You were tackling kids that were small. And when you played, they weren't as fast as you, or they weren't throwing as hard, or they weren't doing stuff like you that these kids are doing today. You have to sit back and understand. And coaches, as coaches, understand that parents are going to get in your ear, and they're going to tell you what's best. It's your job to set the tone, make sure parents understand you're the coach, they're the parent, they're going to watch. And if they really want to coach next year, especially youth leagues, they can sign up because it's a volunteer job anyways. So if you want to volunteer, then sign up. Get your own team. But other than that, it's your job because you're the one that stepped up, take on this role as a coach. You're not here. You'll hear suggestions, but you're not going to take them because it's your job to make sure that you do what's best for these guys or girls or whatever.
So when I coached soccer, we had this one big old fat dad. I'm going to describe him as that. And he would always yell at his kid, constantly yell at his kid. And I would tell his kid, I'm like, listen, you listen to me, you don't listen to him. He's not out here playing. Guy was a big jerk. So one time during practice, he was screaming at his kid, and I asked him to volunteer to be a goalie. And the kids were scoring on him.
The dad?
Yeah, scoring on him left and right. He got so mad, he kicked the ball off the field and said, fuck this shit.
Really?
Yeah, and walked up to the benches, and all the kids laughed. And after that, he wasn't so aggro at the games, probably because, it probably put him in his place. I don't know. But it showed the kids, he's screaming at him, and he's screaming something he has no knowledge about. And he has no skill level to try to pass judgment on these children. Like I said, I didn't know anything really about soccer, but I knew about conditioning and strength training.
No, but you chose to take on the role that other people didn't want.
Yes.
That's the most time when you get volunteer coaches, most of these people, there's some parents who are hardcore volunteers. Like they're the first ones signing. They're, I'm fucking going to have the best team ever because I'm going to have a trophy at my house and brag about it during barbecues.
Yeah.
But then most of the time, there's those teams where parents just pick up the slack because it's what's best for the kids. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you have the sideline coaches who are all the parents who would do it, but they just don't have the time. But for some reason, they're at every fucking practice and they're at every game, but they can't have the time to make sure that they can help coach. Those are the parents that piss you off. And that's what I would have said. If that guy was at every fucking practice, I would say, dude, you know what? Here's an app, sign up, get a background check, and be out here and volunteer right now because you're here every day anyways. And he'd be like, no, I don't have time. Well, you have time to come here and criticize. Why don't you come and have time coach?
So do you think that if we rewind it 20 years, maybe 20, I don't know, and they actually did cut kids and stop that everyone has a right to play rule?
I think there's a age break on cutting.
Because when I coached, every time, both years, everyone had to play every game.
Well, because here's why. 20 years ago, coaches got in fights with parents, fist fights. I saw one. I saw one at a youth football game where a coach beat up a parent on the sideline during a game. Yeah. And the problem is the background checks on coaches are scarce. Volunteer coaches are volunteers. And the problem is some are in it just for the win. Some are in it to make sure their kid has the best experience possible. And some are in it just to make sure everybody has the best experience possible. So if you let them cut, they'll be like, yeah, I know your dad, and he's a fucking tool bag, and I know you're a good player, but your dad's an asshole, so I'm going to cut you. That's what's going to happen. So if you don't set the boundaries of, hey, this is youth league, everybody should play, then you're missing that opportunity to give that kid an opportunity to experience something that he might be really good at.
Good point.
And if you cut him because of personal reasons or you cut him because he's just not having a good year, you're going to discourage him from playing. And the one thing that's going to happen is we already have a day and age of kids not doing enough physical stuff anyways. Now, if you cut them, you're going to make it worse.
So do you think that maybe if the children, just like for police academy, firefighters, and other things, they meet the physical requirements minimum, like they have to run a 40-yard dash, do a certain amount of pull-ups, a certain amount of box squats.
As long as
if they do all that and they make the minimum,
but they got to set the standard to make sure it's fair. Because
that's
not
right.
not everybody. But see, you're not asking them to do anything that's requiring them to do. You're asking them to play a sport. And now I agree with you. Some sports like football, where if a kid goes in there and turns his back every time someone runs at him, or he runs away, or he puts his head down on the ground and gets nailed in the back of the neck, you don't play him because he's risking himself.
Yep.
And he obviously doesn't want to hit. Those are the ones you can say, I'm going to tell the parent I'm not going to play him for safety purposes. Baseball, you could put him in the outfield and hit balls, and as long as it's not going to hurt him, he's getting the experience. And if he's not going to try, he's not going to play anymore after this. You understand you're going to weed them out anyways because you're putting them in the position. There's a lot of kids who will sit the bench and just to be a part of the team so their dad or mom will shut up. Yeah. And they'll get the little trophy at the end, but they don't want to play, but they're not going to tell their parents that, so they're just going to sit there and be a part of it, but they don't want to play.
So you don't think there should be some sort of I agree with. If you're going to put a kid on the field and like with a full contact like football or even soccer where somebody cowers.
Basketball. If he's going to stand there and you throw the ball at him and he's like, I don't want it, and he hits him in the face every time, he shouldn't be out there to play.
Yeah, because he's risking himself injury and everybody around him. What I'm saying is that if you got these glory hole, asshole, high school was my fucking life parents that put their kids in football and they make them do it. They put them in baseball. They make them do it every year. No matter how much they suck, they make them do it every year. Do you think it's the coaches or the team manager's responsibility to take the parent and say, I'm not putting your kid in the game?
Not until high school. Not until it's not a pay-you-play program. You pay, you'll play. That's what these youth leagues are. And the problem is we don't have the right as a volunteer. I don't think you have the right to make that decision yet. The coaches who are getting paid in high school can. Those coaches can make that decision because it's a very select few. And the problem is if a parent's dumb enough to not know that their kid's not doing it, and they think all of a sudden, like you said, the light bulb's going to click on and be like, oh, fuck yeah, what I've been waiting for. I love baseball. I'm going to hit home runs now. I'm going to catch the ball and be a pitcher. That's the parent's fault. And the kid, it's fault too, because by the time the kid gets up that old enough, he should be able to say, I don't want to play. And most of the time, you're going to have those kids, and unfortunately, you can't stop it. You can't stop it. Because if you do, you're going to get those people who make decisions because this year the kid didn't want to do it, but next year he does.
But he has tryouts in high school.
And tryouts in high school is where you get cut. Yes. And you know what? And tryouts in football is where you get cut. Because you can only have so many kids on the team. And if a kid truly doesn't want to do it, but he's going to go out there, and I've seen it, kids are going to go out there anyways because their parents want them to. They get cut. It's a big relief, and they're done. Parent can't sit there and say, oh, you cut my fucking kid. They could say it all they want, but the coaches say, he's cut, he's cut. It's my decision. And that's the problem with high school sports. There is those coaches who do it still on personal purposes, or they do it for personal because there's something wrong, or they don't like the kid. Like they just don't like him because he's in his class and he's kind of a loud mouth. And they make it personal. But if that kid's an outstanding athlete, they'll overlook all that stuff to keep the kid. But the problem is you have to play. You have to be able to play in high school. But in the youth leagues, you pay your fee. I pay my $80 to whatever, $150 to $200. I'm going to play, and there's stipulations put in that says he's going to play 7 plays and a half, or he's going to play 2 innings, and then you're done. And as a coach, I've been there. I have a kid. I had a parent yell at me through the back of the dugout going, you don't want him to play because you don't give him a chance. And I'm like, God damn, this kid is. He didn't even say, don't put me in. Don't put me in. Oh, Coach, don't put in. And I'm like, you got to go in, dude. I don't want to go in. So I put him in the worst place possible where he just sits out there and the parents don't like it. He should be a pitcher. He doesn't even want to play. And it's like he's going to just stand out there to get his plays in. He's going to stand up there and bat once. And then he's completely satisfied because Beasto Mamo is going to yell at me anyways. Anyway, I'm going to take it. And all I'm going to say is, your kid doesn't want to play. And she'll say, that's not true. And then they'll say, Jimmy, don't you want to play? And he'll be like, yeah. And they're like, yeah, you little
He'll sell
shit.
you out.
So,
Coach
but
Jamie's an asshole.
Yeah, he doesn't want me to play. He wants to win. So, and I'll proudly say, I've only been on like one winning team out of all my years that's actually like won anything. I've been on like okay teams and really bad teams. But I don't think I was ever on a team that we took state championships every year and we freaking had like the Cowboys from the Little Giants tryouts or something like that for
Those
the movie.
Are cool movies. So what should be done maybe is in youth sports, pay you play sports.
Well,
What I'm
that's
saying
changed.
Is, well, hold on, wait.
It's changed though. There's club sports now that you have to try out to be a part of.
Well, it's a private, probably, right?
Right. You have to be
different.
a part of it. No, it's not. They've now taken over so much that people are begging teams to get on. They're pimping their kid out. Get in there, Jimmy. You know you can make this team. Then he gets disappointed at the age of 8 to play some club baseball team. And the coach is just like, we're just not looking for that kind of kid right now. Just come back next year. And the kid then has to go to what now they consider, when me and you were young kids, Little League was the place you played. Now Little League is the shit league. Club sports are the fucking where you want to be.
So what I'm saying is, if you take away, if every kid gets to play and every kid gets a trophy or a certificate, whatever the fuck they give them, then why don't they just take away the championship? It doesn't matter.
Here's what I think.
They take away
because there has to only be one Highlander. There only is one.
Why?
Because there has to be.
If everybody gets a trophy,
parents will not be
satisfied.
satisfied.
Everybody should be.
Parents will not be satisfied. It's not the kids. I'll tell you exactly what I just told somebody. I'll tell you what some of the days.
This conversation is about adults.
We got done with the game.
Parents
are upset.
It's about adults.
Parents
not about kids.
Parents are going to fight. Everybody's fighting, yelling at each other. The kids are over there handing out gum.
Yeah,
playing with a toy.
Exactly.
The fuck is wrong with you folks? The kids don't even care that much.
Exactly.
The thing is there has to be a determined winner. I used to run a basketball league for 5 and 6-year-old kids. And I ran it. It was called mini basketball, and they ran up and down. There was no refs. The kids would just hack each other, tackle each other. It was fun. Not to the parents. He's fouling. Yeah, he can't even run fast enough with the ball. He's allowed to travel.
He can't even dribble the ball twice.
And then they would shoot, and they would, how do we know what the score is? You don't put it up. Because I don't want to. Because when we're done, everybody was excited to play basketball that day. But when there's a score, it's on the wall. It says the Rangers lost to the Raptors. Rangers, you suck dick. Now the kids feel bad about themselves, and the parents are like, I can't believe you guys lost. It's your coach's fault. It's always the coach's fault when you lose. It's the player's fault. The player's a reason why you won. And the thing is it changes the whole dynamics of how the kids look into the sport. And I used to run a league like that, and I got yelled at all the time to where parents started keeping fucking score on a little rolling, like a notepad, and at the halftime they'd be like, you guys are losing. And the kids are like, we don't fucking know. And they're like, you're losing. And so I had to tell parents, don't do that. These kids are 5 and 6-year-old kids. You give them a Capri Sun and a cupcake at the end of this game, and they're fucking excited. They're like, I'm sorry, guys. It wasn't a very good game. Here's a cupcake. Boom. All losses are out of my head. And now I'm only thinking about is the pizza party I'm going to after this.
Do you remember I coached 7th, 8th grade, whatever, 8-year-olds first couple of years. And then I decided to coach the peewee, the little ones, the little guys where they just put up cones.
They just run around.
And all my kid cared about was snack time.
Yeah. What are we getting at
What
halftime?
snack?
What are we getting? Are we getting cut up oranges at halftime?
Yep. It was
I can't
all-
wait. And are we what kind of snack are we getting?
It was all snack time.
And then again,
he didn't give a
you
shit.
you sit there and say, why does everybody get a trophy? Because that's the fucking memory.
We should, but what I'm saying is this conversation, this interview, is not about children. It's about adults and their glory
I will tell you
days.
this: the
It's
higher you
about
get,
them. I'm trying to say,
coaching,
what can we do to save the kids?
higher you get coaching, the more parents are involved, but the more stern conversations you can have with folks. Because the kids now are emotionally involved too. Everybody at the higher levels, everybody's involved. This is where you can have more conversations with people.
Yeah, I'm talking about-
But at the younger ages, Jimmy doesn't give a fuck if he plays forward in basketball, if he
Exactly.
plays guard, but
So-
the parent does.
What is my question for you right now? What can we do to save these little guys and let them have fun? What can we do? Do we just put the parents outside like a hockey ring, out some glass that are soundproof?
No, because it
And
won't
the
be
kids
fun for
just-
the kids. Because some kids perform for their parents. Some
Yeah.
kids do it for the parent.
Okay.
Some kids play harder because mom's a big time soccer fan or dad's a big time baseball fan. So kids will actually put more effort in because their parents are watching. Now, and there's nothing wrong with them cheering. And what parents need to understand under any sports circumstance is I always tell them the same thing. If you're going to criticize them for making a mistake, I want you to pick up a baseball bat, stand in the middle of Cardinal Stadium, and have everybody just boo the shit out of you while you make mistakes. I said, that's what it feels like for... Did you talk in that microphone?
I turned it off.
So I hope you didn't turn it off the whole time.
No, I can hear myself.
So the parent is that the parents don't understand what it feels like because they don't remember if they ever were in that situation what it
So,
felt like.
we should shame the parents.
No, you don't.
We
need
should
to
have
shame
half.
them.
That's
here's,
right.
Here's what
halftime
happens.
shaming.
You know what happened back
We
in the
should have
90s?
halftime shaming.
No, you know what happened
not?
back in the 90s, and I'm not sure they do this anymore, and it probably wouldn't be a bad idea to do it for everything.
They egged
There is
the
actually
parents.
a group of people who formed a program for parents, and you parents have to attend this meeting. You parents have to take this oath. You parents
Fucking
have to
beautiful.
understand that if you break this oath, you're gone.
It's good.
And they have to sign it, and they have to agree.
Good.
Because parents don't understand that what they're doing, and they don't. And I'm going to totally say it this way. Parents don't understand what they're doing is affecting their child.
So I have an idea. At the end of the season, we take
You give the parents awards.
no. Yeah, we give them awards for
Yeah,
being
get them awards for being good parents. You
Yeah.
say,
No,
you know
no,
what?
no.
Mrs. Johnson was a really good mom,
She brought the best snacks,
and she
No.
never said one negative thing.
What if at the end of the season, we took all the parents and we put them on the field to play against each other, and we let the kids scream and yell at them that they
They
sucked.
do have those things where some teams will put together and let the kids play the parents, like in a baseball game or something, or they will have like a dodgeball game after the end where
They
kids
should.
can throw balls at the parents. Again, this is nothing new. This is not news. This
I think
is
they
not.
should have
This has been
halftime
this has
shaming.
been the problem with youth sports since youth sports have been around.
But it sets the kid up. What if the kid is like the little kid down the street right now who you see loves baseball, and then all of a sudden he gets put into baseball, and he gets to see how crazy it makes his parents and uncles and everybody else. And he's like, I don't like all this yelling and screaming. I don't like that they fight. I'm just done with baseball.
That happens.
That's right. So, I mean, what can you do to save the kid?
Why can't you can't save them all, man?
Well, you could. We could just shame the parents.
Some kids.
We could just
Some kids just have to put their personal interest in front of their parents. If they really care about that sport, they need to put it, and they need to tell. There are parents that get shamed if you're saying that. They're shamed by their kids. Don't. Stop. You're embarrassing me. That does happen.
Should happen more often. I like what you said the other day when you said something about coaching, and you said when you're reffing, and you said a coach comes up and yells at you. I can't believe you didn't make a call on that play. And you were like, well, I can't believe you called that play.
Yeah. Well, that's the truth, though.
Can you say that to a parent? I can't believe you're making him play.
And you can. And you just got to get ready for the backlash. Because if you say it that way, there are some honest, like I said, the older they get, the more conversations you can have that are adult. When they're young, you don't want to affect them because you don't know what they're going to end up being like. Man, they might be a freaking all-star. They might come on NFL Network and say, that one coach when I was 7 told me I shouldn't play anymore because I was scared. And you know what? Fuck him. Now look at me. I'm making millions. Where are you at, coach? I'm watching you on TV.
I was so angry.
You just have to, as good coaches, realize kids' abilities, and good coaches good coaches can decide how kids are going to be utilized, especially if they have no choice but to play. And so you can make it fun for them either way. But when they get older, there becomes an issue with you don't want anybody to get injured, you don't want anybody to get hurt, and you want everybody to have fun. But you also don't want them in here if they're not invested. When they get older and they're with their parents, you can have that conversation. I just don't feel like so-and-so is invested. Parent can tell you you're full of shit, but you're doing what's best for the child. Your job as a coach is not just to coach the sport, but to make sure that people are doing what's best for them.
Right. That is right. That's what a master does. You know, it's like I was watching Matrix, remember? And Neo was not the one. And he just isn't the one.
No.
But he really was. She knew he was the one, but she told him he wasn't the one because he wasn't ready.
So you think that you're thinking that this whole conversation was about parenting, coaching, parenting.
It was about you being a coach. It's about your experience being a coach.
But it's everybody,
and what you've witnessed.
And that's why you have a hard time finding volunteer coaches, man, because of parents.
It's a thankless job.
All of it is.
I mean, when I did it.
Even in the NFL, these guys get millions, and all they do is get yelled at.
Well, you get blamed at both ways.
Everything. And the thing is when they win, they get credited for making good decisions. But when they lose, it's all your fault.
And they fire you.
It's the first thing they do. Anywhere, high school and college and professional, they're not paid. You're not forced to play here, so you can leave. So high school kids, they have to go to school and play there. It's your fault. College kids, we bring them here, and we're paying them basically to be here, and not you suck, get out of here. And when the pros, you're replaceable, not the 50-some people I have on the roster. So coaches all know that. That's why the job itself kills people, because it just stresses them out when you have a group of people that you seriously can't fix. You can't fix them.
The thing is,
it is what it is, and it's your job as a coach to find what's going to work best.
You've got, I don't know, how many guys are on a football field?
22.
All together, both sides?
It's 11 on 11.
Okay. So you got 11 individuals out there. That 11 individuals, that you have no control at all over what their mindset is and where their brain is at, and where their feelings are at.
Your job is to get them ready.
You can scream at them and yell at them all you want, but if they just found out before they stepped on the field that somebody's dying, or they found out their girl's pregnant, something like that, you could be the best coach in the world. You can't talk them out of that. They're not gonna be there. They're not gonna breathe in their A game because their mind is somewhere else.
But that's a different story. That's psychology there, man.
Yeah.
You got to figure out how to get them in their game.
Yeah, but you got a guy running a play where every person is a key player, but if he's not in it that day, that fucks up the whole thing.
One guy. It does. And it's your job to set the tone and get the guy. Okay, let's say a kid shows up and he's like, you know what?
You got how many
my
people?
Parents are
How
getting
many guys
my
do you
parents are getting a divorce. You're gonna know, dude. If he's a key player, you're gonna know something's up. And you're gonna be like, oh, my parents are getting a divorce. It's your job to figure out a way to relay to him because he showed up. He
has to. He's under contract.
Well, we're talking, well, okay, so professionals.
Yes.
Your job is to get them in the mind frame to be a professional. Just like you would go to work, they're at work. But if their ability to play is affected, then it's your job to replace it. May not be well thought of. It may not be like, what the fuck, dude? We drafted that guy for a reason. You know something people don't know. And it's your job to put not only that guy's interest at best, because he can't play right now, which means he could be injured if he's that distracted. It's also your job to make sure that everybody else gets a fair chance to compete. And that means all other 10 players on that team shouldn't have to suffer because you have to play this guy. If he's not going to perform because of what's going on, and it's not his fault, and maybe it is his fault, who knows, it's your job to make sure that you put someone in there so everybody has a chance to be successful. And if you don't, then you're a bad coach.
Well, it's a mindset, but you can't control the individuation process.
You could control it. You're the coach. You could control it. You can't force him.
It's different.
You can't force him to play his best game ever, but you can't do that with anybody, dude.
Well,
you
I'm
can't
not
put
gonna
anybody.
debate this
You
with
can't
because
put
I'm not a
anybody.
coach.
You can't put anybody and sit there and say you better play the same way you played last week because today they might have a stomach ache. Today they might have shit their pants in the first play.
It's true.
So you just have to understand as you're watching it, it's your job to make changes because you're the captain of the ship. You're running the ship, man. You're holding the controllers.
That's right.
If you're playing a video game and you're jumping around and you're like, I'm going in the wrong direction, you don't continue to push in the wrong direction. You take the controllers and redirect your player to go somewhere else. Same thing as a coach.
Yes. But what I'm saying on that I think it's unfair that a coach is held responsible for the emotions and psychic. When I say psychic, I'm talking the mental thinking of all those men.
You want to know when it's unfair? When you lose. When you win, you're the smartest fucker in the world. I knew you could do the job. I knew you were the guy.
Everything fell into play that day.
You lose, you're a fucking idiot. Why'd you do that? That's when you're the bad guy.
Well, in the military with these guys, these special op guys, they keep them shut. They keep them completely locked away from all information before they go on a mission. Like, they don't get to hear from their family. They don't get to know shit.
But they also have to worry about lives.
That's right.
They're worrying about lives. So there's more on the stake than just scoring a touchdown.
Well, you think the way these people react and the way all the money involved, they would treat it the same way.
No.
I mean,
because you don't have a chance to come back from a miscommunication of an army or police officers or firefighters. You don't have the chance to make a second decision. That may be your only fucking chance. But in a game, you can come back and try to do better.
But the coach doesn't get his job back. The city doesn't get to come back after they burn it.
No.
And trash it.
These are two different things. But again, it's your job as a coach. Unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. That's why they hire you to make all the big decisions. Same thing with running a business. The egg trickles down, man, and they take away the one who the least invested, the one they can most likely get rid of.
The higher up ladder you go, the more responsibilities
you have. But the president of the team doesn't get yelled at. He gets yelled at by the public, but his job is to make the changes. And he goes down the row and says, we can cut you loose and afford to lose you. See ya.
How come the guy who...
You got a minute.
The draft pick guy doesn't help. Just the draft picks doesn't get fired for picking shitty players.
Because you don't know. He didn't pick. He picked them based on that's a whole mathematical, statistical. Because there's no error. You did that. Whoever put it together, it's based on stats. So when you pick that, you make the decision. Just like hiring someone to run a department, you make the decision based on that one shot that you saw him or that one background check you did, and then you get him into play and you realize, you know what, he's a fucking mess. That's what happens. Then you just realize we made a mistake. That was our fault. And people take that. And sometimes people do lose their jobs over that shit.
So in closing, do you recommend coaching for youth sports?
Coaching's fun. Coaching's fun, but you just got to have a backbone, and you also got to be willing to be politically correct, but also set the tone. You don't. You're never gonna. You're never set the tone.
Set the
Set the expectations up.